Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm up at my forest survival camp again, continuing the construction of my timber frame fireplace. This is part 3. If you haven't seen the 2 previous parts, you can go back and watch them later. I'll put a link to the latest one of them up here. Today I'm gonna start on the diagonal bracing, and those braces will also extend above the tie beams and support the roof ridge. It's a very interesting way of building things. I've seen it a while back in a Norwegian timber frame build in a book that I forgot the name of. If it springs to mind, I'll be sure to mention it for you if you'd like to try and find that book for yourselves. I have to make the bracing pieces from scratch. I don't have any lumber prepared that's suitable for it, I think. I'll just get started on that while the coffee gets ready. Well, that's the first side of a little log hewn and ready. So I think I deserve a sip of coffee after that. I'll take any excuse to deserve a sip of coffee out in the forest. I'm hewing this log to 4 inches as the rest of the lumber I've been preparing, but I'm not going to use it as a 4-inch log. I'm going to split it into 2-inch planks. That little log will make 2 diagonal braces for the front of the fireplace. That way they are the same length and the same width. Thought it felt convenient doing it like that. I must say it's quite enjoyable hewing small logs. That log is 130 centimeters. That's like 4 feet, 4.5 feet. That's really small. Being used to slightly larger and longer logs, doing short ones as this almost feels effortless in comparison. So if you want to get into hewing, I recommend you try a couple of slightly longer logs first and then do a few short ones. And all of a sudden you feel like a real pro at it. As the previous video, this one will also be shot over a number of days. So the weather might change a little bit from day to day, as in the previous video. I'm sure you don't mind. Right. Coffee break's over. Let's continue the work. Now I'm gonna start splitting the log. So I start by striking a line right across it. If you want to see me trying to split a really hard and gnarly ash log, I have a video of that as well. Now that I've opened up the crack on the first side, I'm turning the log around, starting the crack from the opposite side. And hopefully the two will meet in the center in a nice way. I'm helping the crack along with a few oak wedges all along the line. Hopefully that will result in a more even split. This spruce is pretty knotty, and everywhere they appear the fibers wants to twist and the crack wants to run out. So I hope I'll get two usable pieces in the end. I'm trying to cut into the crack with the axe, try and steer the crack onto a straighter line. Well, it's far from perfect, and at this end that's the biggest problem, because the crack ran off and took a big bite out of this and left a ridge on this side. Further along back here it's a little bit the opposite, but it's much flatter. It's just first foot or so, 30 centimeters, that's really problematic. I'm gonna hew them flat and see if I can use them anyway. Get rid of the worst things here right away. So they will probably not be 2-inch planks, they will be perhaps 1.5 inch or so, or maybe a little bit uneven. That doesn't matter on this construction, as long as they are strong enough at the joints. I'm gonna put them on the trestles. So there's the two boards that will be diagonal braces. I think that will work. Not too happy about the crack runout, but that's because this spruce had a lot of knots in it. I'm gonna try and work around it. Yeah, I think it's gonna be alright. I'm gonna split another one, make two more. See if I can make a better split on my second attempt. had some problem with grain run out on this split as well. So I had to cut the fibers at this end and towards the middle section. But I think it's a little bit better than the first one at least. But before I do anything else, I think it's time for a coffee break. Have you noticed how the smoke always comes from your right and to the left, right in my face, every time I light a fire here? No, seriously, go back and watch my previous videos. Every time I have a fire here, I sit in the smoke. It's gonna be really good to get a new fireplace ready, because then it will drift out from the camp, not into the camp. Still nice to have a cup of coffee out in the woods, smoke or not. I'm a bit troubled by that grain run out in the crack on both the attempts. But I guess it's like that when you are splitting spruce, because the fibers in it are so long. So the least amount of twist, if you have any knots, which I have in this one, you usually have that in spruce, and the crack steers off. So I had to cut the fibers on both the attempts to split it, but I think I have to expect that. It's probably easier to split pine. I'd like to try that, but I'm very new to this splitting or riving. These spruce pieces are my first real attempts actually. I think it goes okay, that considered. I'm gonna finish this lunch break and then I'm gonna hew these new planks somewhat smooth. And then it's time to fit them into the frame. That's gonna be really fun. I'm using a plumb bob to check the posts, and when they are good, I clamp the brace to the timber frame, so I can mark it with a pencil. This time I don't bother with the clamps. I just hold the brace up against the markings I did on the frame before and mark with a pencil again. I'm gonna join the braces to the frame with lap joints. That's a type of joinery I've seen on Norwegian timber frames. I've tried it a few times and I think it's a nice way to work. A little more than a week passed since last time I was up here. I got struck by cold and I couldn't get out working. And during that time weather changed. Now it's really spring-like and sunny up here. I'm not trusting it though, because it's only in the beginning of March still. But I'm gonna enjoy it nevertheless. I get myself a cup of coffee and continue making the braces for the timber frame. This notch will receive the ridge beam. So it's a good idea to make that before pegging the braces to the frame. Now I only have to remember to make this notch on the second pair of braces before pegging them to the frame. So what do you think is going to happen? This time I fix the braces to each other with a temporary crossbeam. That way they stay in place when I drill the holes for the pegs. Of course I forgot to make the notch for the ridge beam. I'm gonna need a ladder to get up there now. I don't make the ridge beam from scratch. I'm repurposing my first attempt to make a tie beam. But I cut the notches wrong on that one, so I discarded it. I'm glad I can repurpose it and use it for something else in the project. That's the braces for the front and the back of the timber frame, as well as the support for the ridge beam. So now it's time to make the short braces that will sit on the sides of the structure. I split a small pine log some time ago that will be perfect to use for those. I'm doing sort of a quick type of hewing on this half log, making scoring cuts along the side of it rather than notches. That means I cut off strips of wood rather than chunks. As you know, there are many ways to skin a cat, or so the story goes. I decided to cut the sides of the plank straight and getting rid of most of the sapwood at the same time. Seemed like a good idea, since the log had been laying outside for about a year. I bring the clamps back so I can drill through the brace and the receiving part at the same time. It saves me a lot of time. And now that I have a ladder at the camp, it's a lot easier to do it. There you have it. All the braces are in place and they are supporting the ridge beam just as I intended. I tried making dowels from spruce branches. Most of them turned out okay, but some of them broke, as you saw in the footage. I may have to replace them later when they dry a little bit. I will also wedge all the dowels, but I'll also do that later when they dry up a little bit, so I see how loose they actually become. Next thing I'm gonna do here is to build the walls up from the sill, 2 rows of logs to raise the fire bed a little bit for more convenient cooking. I probably should have done that before I raised the structure and put all the braces in. Yeah, but I'll try to do it a little bit backwards since I was a little bit too eager to think about that at the time. So if you want to see how that turns out, I guess you'll have to come back for my next video. I'm gonna tidy the place up a little bit before I shoot that one. So I hope to see you then. Until then, take care of yourself.